Learning the tools and chasing every new AI model won't stop you from getting replaced at work. But one thing that upskilling advice ignores will stop you from getting replaced. If you've been worrying about whether your job is going to survive the next few years, this video is going to settle it for you. I'm going to show you the 3 shifts that make senior professionals nearly impossible to replace. Here's where the worry usually comes from. You started using the tools at work, you've had some training, but you're probably thinking that you haven't done anywhere near as much as you should have done by now. Because the advice is the same everywhere you look. Learn AI, upskill, stay relevant. So yes, you're doing some of that, and that makes you even more concerned that you're falling behind. The reason why learning about AI doesn't settle your worries about whether you're going to be replaced or not is because the skills that you can learn on a course are, by definition, the skills that can be packaged up. They can be written down, they can be standardized. And anything that can be standardized is exactly the thing that a machine can get good at. So when your value to an organization is mostly, I can do this task, and then a tool arrives that can also do that task, you've handed someone a straight comparison. And no amount of extra training is going to get you out of that. It just makes you faster at doing that thing. You've most likely been told that the answer to this challenge is to learn the technology, but it isn't. And I go further. The effort that you put into your work stopped being your competitive advantage some time ago. Most of us already work hard and already produce a lot. So that was true before AI arrived. And what AI has done is taken something that was already a weak place to compete in, your effort, and make it even weaker, because now everybody can do more with less. Which means that the question worth asking is a completely different one. And that question is, what do I have that can't get copied? And that's a question about you, not about technology. A quick word on why I'm the person saying this. I spent 22 years at KPMG, one of the world's largest professional services firms, 7 of those years as a partner, working out exactly what made senior people valuable. And since leaving in 2022, I've coached senior leaders one-to-one and run leadership development programs at household name companies. And this worry about being replaced is incredibly common at the moment. Most of the people I work with have some version of it, and the ones who have moved past it have all got clear on their answer to that question. What do I have that can't get copied? And there are 3 shifts that will lead you to that answer. The first changes how you see the game. The second is the one that almost everybody avoids because it turns the question back on you. And the third is where this becomes really practical because it changes how you spend your time. Now you will be able to do this, so let's get started. The first shift is about what you're actually competing on. After 2 decades of watching senior people prep for board meetings, I'd say that there are 2 distinct types here. The first person spends their whole weekend on it, every slide is refined, every transition is rehearsed. The second person spends about an hour working out the 3 things that the board genuinely cares about. And then they build their presentation around those 3 things. And they use the rest of the time pressure testing their recommendation, looking for the holes. The first person probably walks in with the more polished deck, but the second person walks in with more influence. And here's why this matters for this conversation. A tool can generate the slides, format the tables, tidy the transitions. It can do what most of the first person did all weekend. But what it can't do is what the second person did. Deciding what matters, knowing this board, this moment, and what they're going to respond to. That's judgment, and your judgment is the part that can't get copied. So the first shift here is to compete on judgment, not effort. And the simplest way to do this is to ask yourself, before you start any piece of work, what is subjective here and what is my view? Because that's the question that AI can't answer. So if you want to try this, look at your week ahead and identify which things genuinely need your judgment and which just need to get done. The things that require your judgment is where your real value is, and that can't be taken away. Now, knowing that you're competing on judgment is the start. And judgment isn't generic. 2 senior people will take a look at the same problem and make different calls. So the next shift is about where your version of judgment actually comes from. So this second shift is the one that any AI upskilling advice misses entirely, because it's about you, not the tech. You have to know who you are. Let me give you an example. I've been at KPMG for 22 years before I left, and for most of those years, if you asked me who I was, I'd have told you my title: partner, COO, head of people. That was the answer. And then I left, and all of those titles disappeared overnight. I'd had 22 years to ask myself who I was without those titles, and I'd never properly thought about it. And I seriously recommend you don't actually leave it that long. But here's why this is relevant. Being replaced threatens you with exactly that moment. The role goes, and you find out whether you know who you are without it. The senior people who I see handling AI well have already done that work. They're not waiting to be forced into it. So what does who you are actually mean here? The most useful version that I found is about your character strengths. These are a specific handful of things that you bring that shape how you work and, importantly, how you make your decisions, your judgments. 3 of mine are hope, honesty, and social intelligence. And in my coaching work, I need all 3 of those. Hope means that I believe in a better future for someone. Honesty means that I'm willing to tell them some awkward truths. And social intelligence means that I can read what's going on underneath what they're saying. I worked with a managing director recently whose top 3 strengths were leadership, judgment, and perseverance. And her role demanded all 3 of those constantly. And she definitely needed perseverance in holding her nerve before the results started to show. For her, AI is assisting her with parts of her job, but what it can't do is provide the leadership, the judgment, and the perseverance alongside it. The AI has no answer to who am I, but she does. So to get this to work for yourself, think about the last time you did something brilliantly at work, and then ask which 2 or 3 of your character strengths were needed. That tells you about what you bring that AI can't, and it's those character strengths that inform your judgments. One thing before we get to the final shift, I write a weekly email for senior professionals who are working more intelligently so that they can be more successful with less effort. If that sounds like you, the link's in the description. Now, on to the final shift. So you know that you're competing on judgment rather than effort, and you know what you uniquely bring. The 3rd shift is about where in the work you actually sit. If your work is sitting downstream of the big decisions, then more of your work will be execution. And execution work is work that AI can help with and increasingly do for you. Upstream is different. Upstream is where someone is still working out what the right decision actually is. Whether to acquire something, whether to restructure, whether to back down on something. That's the work that requires real human thinking. And that's the work that AI can't do for you. But it's the work that people will remember you for. So the 3rd shift here is to get yourself further upstream, closer to those big decisions. A couple of questions can help you here. Looking back over the last few weeks, where do people come to you for your judgment before they've made up their minds about something? And where do they come to you with a decision already made? When people are coming to you for your judgment, that's the work that you want to double down on. So here's one move to make this week. Pick one piece of work where the decision is about to be made and find a way into the conversation before it's decided. It might be a pre-board chat, or the session before the strategy gets written, or perhaps it's an early conversation with the client before the scope of work is set. Get in the room before the decision is made. Now, a couple of things you might be thinking. First is, so you're telling me not to use these AI tools? And not at all. Learn them, use them. They're really useful. They're not optional, but just don't make the mistake that being good with the tool will make you safe. Being good with a tool is the flaw now. Everyone will be. The moat that protects you is what you personally bring on top of it. The second thing you might be thinking is that these things around judgment and identity sound a bit soft next to a concrete skill. But I'd actually argue it's the opposite. A specific skill has a shelf life, whereas your judgment and your character strengths underneath your judgment, they compound for your whole career. That's the most concrete asset that you've got. So remember, what makes you genuinely hard to replace is your judgment and your character. So make sure that's where you're concentrating your time. I'd love to hear how you get on in the comments. So the obvious next step here is working out what your character strengths actually are. So watch this video next because it tells you exactly how to do that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.